Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dads on Life, your weekly episodic show about parenting from a male perspective. I'm your host, Jay Miles, and with me, well, usually as always, we're missing one today, but as always, our Keith Bogan.
Good morning from Columbia, South Carolina.
And Doug Hammond.
President as always in Bath, PA.
Chad is still on assignment in Columbia.
The country thereof.
Hopefully, when we see him again, he'll have some company with him. The way it sounded as of pretty much the last time we recorded, they were coming down to the final, hopefully, weeks where his wife would be coming to the U.S. permanently. Today, we're going to be talking about Halloween and, the usual goings on that come with it, things like that. Which will be a little probably different than last year, maybe a little more like what it normally is. Who wants to start us off?
Sure, why not? It's I don't know how many people remember, but yeah, my family and I love Halloween, and it's one of our favorite holidays. We love to decorate. We love to get dressed up and do things. And like I was already talking about to the guys earlier this morning about, we have some people who are gonna throw some small Halloween parties at their homes. My kids are doing a haunted house with one of the parties, which should be interesting and fun. And we got the town has the parade back on, which it was canceled last year, but this year the parade will come back down the streets. And I was over in Nazareth yesterday at the farmers market, and Nazareth as well had their parade, Halloween parade, with all the emergency vehicles and bands and all that, and a little market set up and stuff with food trucks and all, so people were out and about, until the rain came. And yeah, Halloween this year, Pennsylvania does it a little bit different than New Jersey, and what I'm used to, where they only allow trick-or-treating on a specific night and between specific hours. For me, Halloween was sun up to sundown, and now,
Yeah.
well, not even sundown until people stop answering the door, or people said, "Hey, go
True.
home."
That's true. I mean, yeah, we had done it my senior year of high school. Me and a couple of my friends went out, and it was, probably 7:15. People still were answering the door, and it was like a Tuesday. So yeah.
So for us, it's only like 2 hours on a specific day. The only thing that this leads to is different towns doing it on different days, which means people travel from one town to another town to go trick-or-treating, which, I mean, I don't know if my kids eat that much candy, but
That is
I
true.
I have not done that, but we have given out like a lot of candy because of people from other towns. They actually have been like vanned in and bussed in like from other towns. But yeah, it's that time that, like, kind of like what Jason just mentioned, that he did it in his senior year. So I have a 15-year-old, and it was like that thing where you sit down, you're like, "Are you too old, or are you still like into this?" And he said, "No, he's gonna get dressed up." And we're like, "All right, cool." He said, "I got like 4 or 5 friends. We're all gonna get together. We're all gonna hang out and go around." I'm like, "All right, fine, cool." So
Mhm.
yeah, I guess at his age, he still says it's okay to get dressed up. So I mean, not that it's okay to get dressed up. I mean, like I was saying, that me and my wife are as well getting dressed up this year. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'll have to post some pictures that we'll be doing the Munsters thing. So yeah, trying to figure out a way to make myself taller, but it hasn't happened yet. So that's pretty much it for us right now.
Such different experiences. I grew up in a town in Monmouth County, and the same thing is true here when I where I live in Mercer County. Halloween is darkness thing. Not necessarily total darkness, but you would never see a trick or treater before, say, 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And they would be knocking on your door as late as 9 o'clock at night. If your outside light was on, they would be
Mhm.
knocking until at least 9. Not past 9. 9 was usually the cutoff. It was never ever considered a daytime thing.
Oh,
That
no,
that's
that was,
what was that, Jason?
here it was daytime. It starts, at like this year, it definitely will start early, but as soon as we got out of school, usually we started here, so.
Yeah, no. Now, with that said, by the way, when I was a very small kid, I mean, literally until I was like 9 or 10, my parents would get me dressed up, and I'd walk a few houses in the neighborhood, but I didn't really do that much. I never really got into it myself. And then when I got married and we had kids, she was always the person who decorated the house and had all sorts of stuff inside and outside. And she wanted the kids to dress up, and the kids got into it, and they would kind of walk around at her direction and keep, open their bag when mom told them to open their bag and all that, knock on doors. But I was never into it. I had kind of completely lost my interest in the event. I don't even want to call it a holiday. So for a while, she was the only one walking them around, and I didn't do anything. And then after a while, I would walk with them, but I didn't really dress up. But my kids really kind of lost their interest in it, I would say, well before high school. There's a general consensus between my kids and myself that there's an age where it's inappropriate. It's a holiday or it's an event for little kids only,
Oh,
for
so,
like
so,
single
so
digit
they're,
kids.
so they're no fun either.
That's right. They're no fun. Now, I don't think any of us would object to like getting dressed up in a costume and going to a party. But the idea of going door to door and actually opening a bag and taking candy, once you're like 12 years old, it just feels completely wrong. It should be for all the little kids who actually subscribe to the idea that costumes are like, so maybe some of them are even real. Once you understand what the holiday is and where it all comes from, it should just be more for parties. That's our perspective, at least. And I don't think my kids do any of that stuff. From the time they were like early teenage years, I don't think they've gotten dressed up as anything or gone to any Halloween parties. I'm such a party pooper that I will turn off all my lights and either plan to go out or hide in my basement and ignore the door because I'm just not interested in the event. So, and I think my boys have followed my behaviors in that regard. Jeremy, in particular, the younger one, he's like, "Are we hiding this year, Dad, or do you want to go somewhere?"
I wish I had a camera. You should see the faces you have being made at you right now, Keith.
Oh, I'm sure your girls will be like smacking me.
It's not my girls making the faces at you. It's my wife.
Well, I adore your wife, and I sympathize with your wife because she has to be your wife. But we're not going to agree on everything.
Well, like I said, I mean, you mentioned that you're probably going out. You usually go out. Like I said, we'd like you. I'd like you to come here and get to see it again.
Oh, I think it's almost like an academic exercise. If I were to come to, and I will, I've already said I'll be at your house that day, and to watch you and the girls do their thing because they're young and they can still really enjoy that sort of thing. It'll be fun, but it's almost like I'm watching through, through TV. I'm watching someone else's children, and I'm kind of studying behaviors and such, but I'm not really directing anything like I would if I was the parent. So that's going to be very interesting. Now the question is, do I put a bag on my head or not? That could be. Most people want me to put a bag on my head, but that's every day of the year. So I don't know.
Well, being a Giants fan, you should be used to that.
And lately, the last few years, I think that's all, it's like when I was very young, the Saints fans used to call themselves Aints and wear a bag on their head for every game. I feel like that now as a Giants fan. It's just horrifying.
I remember some of the old NFL film videos of the Saints fans wearing the paper bags. Yeah, that's pretty funny. You bring that up.
Yeah, listen, we were almost wearing paper bags on our heads last night in Columbia because the Gamecocks almost lost to Vanderbilt, one of the worst football teams, one of the worst football programs in the country.
Well, Iowa got beat by Purdue yesterday. So
Yeah, but you don't lose to Vandy. It's just horrifying. So we won in the last 37 seconds. But boy, I thought about putting a paper bag on my head, trying to root for our team.
Like I said, for us, it's going to probably be definitely a lot more normal this year than last. The Halloween parade for school is the Friday before Halloween, which is a normal occurrence around here. They have the kids' Halloween parade. The days of having to go to two different places for Halloween parade is thankfully over, because Goddard has their own. So the girls going to Goddard, they not going to Goddard anymore. Obviously, we don't have to worry about that. It's only one parade now. And then, which I'm kind of glad that Halloween isn't on Friday this year for a couple of reasons, but one of them being that not having to rush home after the parade to, and then go out trick or treating. We have, the time to, to be able to get prepared for it all, as early as we want and get ready and go out and do what we usually do for Halloween. And then, that's about it. Not sure. My parents' anniversary wedding anniversary is that day as well. So I'm sure we'll probably, see them for a little bit at some point and then go on our merry way from there. But it's like I said, we know where we were last year to now. I mean, we're still in it. I'm not going to say sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's over. It's not by a long shot, but it's pretty much going to be the normal Halloween almost.
And
At
we're
least
we're missing the discussion of the this is so evil, the most important Halloween tradition that I ever was aware of, and that was the day before Halloween. When I was growing up, there was this thing called Mischief Night, and that's long gone. I mean, no one ever talks about it. I haven't heard people talking about it in years. Do you still hear anything about Mischief Night, or did you participate in it when you were younger?
No. No, I didn't really. I've heard it still happens, but it's not. It never was really that much of an issue here. For us, it never was that bad. You'd get some, but not anything like you. I mean, we've all seen the videos and pictures the next day on the news and things like that. But it never really was a big thing around here.
See,
I'm sure
where I grew up in Monmouth County, there was, I mean, it was more serious because sometimes people would stick M80s in mailboxes and blow them up. And although it's not a big deal, houses would get egged, trees would get TP'd, cars would get, the kind of thing that would cause a massive amount of cleanup that was uncomfortable and all that. But the M80s are actually destructive and dangerous. But That was every year for years in lots of town I grew up in. Uh, it was not uncommon to see that stuff. So it was a much more serious and difficult problem in my town. Uh, since I've moved to Mercer County, I've been there, what, 25, 26 years. And yeah, it's not even, nobody even knows what it is. It's long gone. There's no reference to it at all. And nobody worries about it at all. So I think that people, because of all the legal things that come out of it, it just doesn't even happen anymore. But it was a big thing when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, as us when I was a kid, we would balk at the fact that it was like a curfew, on that day. We used to like to hang out in the streets by our house with all the neighbors' kids, and I remember, everybody's like, "Gotta go inside now." What do you mean,
Yeah.
But it was we did have on Lawrence Harbor the TP, like you're saying, the soaping of the windows and eggs and all.
Mhm.
Not that I participated, but yeah, that kind of stuff happened. But nowadays it's hard for like even us. I mean, the kids, they joke about it and stuff, and but there's just way too many cameras nowadays. And
Oh,
like especially
absolutely. That's a good
in all
point.
the public places, yeah. Like
That's a good point.
I was saying, my kids, like even down at the park here in town, they broke a bottle on the basketball court, and within a couple minutes, the mayor was down there, hollering at the kids. So I mean, you can't even break a bottle, without somebody coming down hollering at you. So I'm sure that we'll have beefed up, presence on that night.
And with rings and things like that, ring doorbells and things like
Yeah.
that. I mean, yeah, you're right about the cameras all over the place. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised how many people actually have the rings. We do. But like I said, I mean, maybe with it being a weekend, it'll be a little different this year, but probably not for the most part. Um, I'm sure there'll be some, like I said, but it won't be like it was. It never really, like I said, never really was that bad here. Um, and I mean, I know like certain towns, not here, but in certain areas, try to do events and things like that the night before, especially if it's on a weekend. They'll do events. In fact, I know what I'm pretty sure I remember some school dances and things like that. They would usually, if they could, they would do in Old Bridge. They would do if Halloween was say a Sunday, they'd try to do homecoming the night before, to try to stem things like that. I remember once or twice, once at least, homecoming was on a Saturday, was a Saturday night before Halloween. And we all were like not surprised when they lined that up that way. So it's not really that surprising to do things like that. But like I know here they don't do community events really the night before Halloween, not too often. They don't really do much of a whole much anything community wise in Old Bridge. I know the last year they actually did and I was going a little bit off topic of talking about Christmas. They did a Christmas light contest in town last year that is being brought back again this year. It'll probably be a little different this year because they'll actually be able to stop at some of the houses and look at the lights and things like that. But we've been kind of slow on the uptake on doing things like that. So we're ways away in Old Bridge from doing community events like that. But I know certain areas they do community events to stem things like that, or just to do community events to, get the communities together.
Yeah, we
Um,
got oh, I was gonna
Go
say
ahead.
Saturday. Saturday we're having the town bonfire, and we have a local cover
Yeah.
band coming in, and the Boy Scouts are gonna be doing the hot apple cider, and the Girl Scouts are gonna be there also giving out cookies and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a whole town event. I mean, they get a good couple hundred people, and like I said, yeah, big ass bonfire done up by the fire department, and yeah, so that'll kick off things. Well, Tuesday night will be the parade. Saturday night will be the concert. So yeah, with the bonfire and all that. So yeah, we're big into the community event things, But
Looks like
it's
we're going to
one of the
Bath for Saturday.
it's like one of those things where it's like
Which-
we try to upkeep that historical home type thing and community first and stuff like that. And like you were saying with Christmas, we have the drawn carriages and stuff like that, and yeah, tree lighting and yeah, caroling.
Jason, are we going to Bath on Saturday night?
Yeah, right. Um, one thing that I like to bring up, we tried to line it up, but it kind of snuck up on me a little too quick this year to line up to have them come on with us. Zombie Walk happened 2 weeks ago in Asbury Park, and unfortunately, like I said, I thought about it a little too late to try to get Jason to come on with us, Meehan, to come on with us to discuss it. I'm sure he was extremely busy this year as compared to last. I know he has events with his daughter as well in Boy Scouts. But yeah, that it sounded like it was, again, as I keep using the word, much closer to normal this year than last. Last year they didn't do it at all. They did it on Zoom or something like that, some variation thereof. This year they actually had it, and it was pretty successful from what I gather from people.
And now you're bringing up a whole different part of this time of year that we haven't even addressed yet. There's one thing that Halloween, kids, trick or treating, candy, things like that. But then the whole other concept of the holiday or the event being associated with scary and horror and zombie and dead people and all that, and the whole Hollywood aspect of releasing all these Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and all the horror movies, and you're probably tying why I'm so not interested in the event right in there, because some people are horror movie people, some people love the zombie stuff, and some people don't get into it at all. And I'm that latter category. I've never had any interest in any of that stuff. And because it's so closely tied to Halloween, it's probably why I drifted away from Halloween as a little kid. Just never interested me at all. My kids are the same way. They have no interest in horror movies.
I know quite well you're not into horror movies, Keith. I remember taking you to see Rob Zombie's 31,
Yes.
and the reaction on your face was quite unusual.
I'm like, yeah, it just it doesn't do anything for me. And my kids have grown up the same way. Listen, I had enough horror being married. I don't want to go into anything else,
You're bringing that up. Actually, they released I think 13th or 14th film of Halloween this week, which does star a lot of the original cast, obviously including Jamie Lee Curtis, who her character in those movies had taken on a very unique twist over the last few movies, where it's reversed and she really is now trying to kill her brother. And that's what it has become about, of her hunting him, so to speak. But that was released this week to less than stellar reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's put it that way. But
Yeah,
then
they'll
again,
still make a lot of money. Who cares?
but well, no, it was actually. I don't even think it was released in theaters. I think it's a Netflix movie.
No, it's not. It's a Peacock movie, and it was released both.
We have to have the person on this podcast who knows what they're talking about. Jason, would you leave and let your wife come on the screen? Because she knows what she's talking
You're fired.
about.
It's gotten less than stellar reviews, but none of those movies haven't gotten good reviews in years. You're talking most of them Halloween, between Halloween, The Nightmares on Elm Street, and The Leatherfaces, Texas Chainsaw Massacres, all of them are multiple sequels in. So to get a good review on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got to be some kind of reboot and done well. So you're not going to get, stellar reviews because they're not meant to be cult, anything but schlocky horror movies or cult classics at this point.
It's almost as if unless they're really schlocky, they're not worth watching. They have to be almost satirical. Ridiculous.
Absolutely.
The whole commercial, I think it's for one of the insurance companies, where there's the four kids who run around and they're looking for a place to hide. Oh, why don't we just hide in, where the chainsaws are? The movies themselves have to be like that. They have to be outrageously stupid, or else nobody wants to watch them. Yeah, they just don't do anything for me. There's so much other good content out there that I have no interest in the horror genre at all.
There's like I said, speaking of sequels, there's apparently another Texas Chainsaw Massacre coming out in the next couple of months. I forget it would be out by now around October, but now they're saying it's going to be sometime later this year, possibly early next year. It's gotten to the point now. A lot of these movies have been around so long that unfortunately the original directors aren't around anymore. I think John Carpenter might be the last of the remaining directors like that that's actually still alive. Even most of the main actors are gone, a lot of them.
Were the rest of them all cut up by chainsaws? Is that why they're dead now? What's the story?
The exception to the rule seems to be the fact that Robert Englund never ages and seems to be, I think he's about 80 now. He doesn't seem to age though. He looks the exact same as he did when he first was put on the scarred up Freddy mask. And I mean, like I said, and Jamie Lee Curtis running around trying to kill her brother is well into her 60s.
Yeah, but let's face it, she looks really, really freaking good for someone in her 60s.
Possibly, she may even be 70 now, or very close at this point to 70.
She is aged quite well.
And you're going to get these movies every year, like you do, but that's par for the course, because come like less than a month from now, you're going to get all the Hallmark Christmas movies. So which are, you want to talk about schlock?
Yes.
I'm getting the knife pointed at me. But no, like I said, this is par for the course. It's that time of year. These are the times that these movies are going to come out, and you're also going to get some of the home for the holidays ones that come out right before Thanksgiving, which there'll probably be a ton of them this year, since there wasn't a lot of production done last year. So a lot of those were put off a year. So you may get a ton, like even more of those movies this year than usual.
Tell,
And
tell,
you
tell Elise for me, gag me.
just got the finger. Um, Doug, I mean, you're the horror movie nut here. Besides from me, I'm sure you've got something to add to this.
Yeah, no, I just was thinking, yeah, for me, the horror movies, yeah, I mean, I love the ones that we grew up with. I mean, and for me, it's, yeah, definitely campy and stuff. The campier, the funnier. One of my favorite is Evil Dead. And, just the fact that a guy could cut off his own hand and have it run away and give him the finger
Yeah,
tells you
yeah.
how some of these movies go, you know? Like, but yeah, for me it was always more or less the evil ones compared to the slasher ones, and we've already discussed about how they've just gotten more gratuitous and more slasherish, which I'm not, too into the slashers, but it also brings back a lot of the older cinema things that have come throughout the years, like from the 30s, the early Draculas and stuff. I enjoy. I have a large collection of a lot of the classic horrors and then all the Price era type things. Love all the Vincent Price movies. And although a lot of people make fun of them, but I mean, I like some of the comedy ones too, like, um, with Laurel and Hardy meeting, Dracula and Frankenstein and stuff like that. Those are all love to watch them with the boys and all. And yeah, I mean, definitely this month I've definitely been watching a lot more than I used to. I have an entire folder of just on YouTube of B lit B movies and horror flicks that are just terrible, nearly tasteless. But there's
I
some in there as well.
a few years ago, I got to see if I can find it. I bought a DVD set of Van Helsing, and it was like a limited edition box set. It had Dracula, like the original Dracula, I think the original Frankenstein, and the original either Invisible Man or Wolfman movie in it. And I mean the original, the Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff films.
Right.
Which I mean, that was actually one movie recently that was kind of horrorish that it really probably could have deserved the proper sequel. Would have been Van Helsing. Unfortunately, Hugh Jackman was so tied into doing X-Men that he couldn't physically pull off doing both, because Van Helsing was a very physical film, which he had just done, probably I think just done an X-Men, and then right after it did Wolverine. So he was beat up from doing them, that he decided that I can't do the Van Helsing sequel. But there's been some horror movies recently, and I mean, this is kind of on topic, that have come out that have been very provocative to certain social climates going on. I wish I could remember the one that I saw. I saw it on HBO Max or something like that. I'll look it up. The Hunt, it was called The Hunt. It was a complete opposite movie of what you would expect. Case in point, the hunted were the people who were being hunted were red state racist, homophobic, commenting people on multimedia sources, and the hunters were rich elitist liberals.
You watched this actually?
Yes.
All right. No, I mean, I've only heard a couple of reviews of it, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, we were talking about.
It was pretty bad. No one actually. It was only like the people who were in it were of name was the good-looking brother from This Is Us, and he's in it for about 10 seconds. There really weren't like a lot, like hardly any stars in it at all of name. It was actually very interesting to watch it because of how on point of the characterizations of these people it was. And then in the end, you obviously, as awkward as it sounds, you feel for the right-leaning red state people who are the innocent victims, so to speak, of the hunt. It actually was very interesting. Yeah, and I've heard a couple of them that are very similar. And obviously this is there's been a run on disaster type films as well over the last couple of months, over the last year, like hurricane type films and Ultimate Storm or Geostorm type movies coming out. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of different interpretations of bringing horror into real world situations.
You guys mentioned several names in there. I don't go back far enough to have seen Bela Lugosi, you know, like Jason did when it first came out. But Vincent Price, thank you for mentioning that, Doug, because Vincent Price, when I was very young, he was right at the end of his career. I mean, God, he died many years ago, but
he died right after Edward Scissorhands. He played the father type role for a very short time, where he passed away in the movie as well. And then he died not very long after doing that. He was well into his 80s, possibly 90 when he passed away.
yeah, and I think he was, yeah, and he was a magnificent actor, and I don't know if I caught the true horror part of his career or more of the almost satirical makings that he did, of horror when he was very, very old. But I tell you, he was one of my earliest fun actors, someone I really appreciated. But I didn't necessarily associate him with horror. I knew he had done some stuff earlier in his career that I had missed. But his voice, his delivery was just magnificent. You know, back in the days when actors could really act.
He did a couple of Poe movies, I believe. I think he had done a couple of movie interpretations of Edgar Allan Poe stories that came out. I believe one of them, including The Raven.
Right. So when I was in, like, second or third grade, and one of my, we all get that assignment where you're supposed to memorize and then get up in front of the class and speak the Raven and deliver the Raven. And I got that too. And my delivery was modeled after Vincent Price. And he was, I was a little kid, but yeah, he was just magnificent. Oh, God.
There's a couple that are out there now that I believe if they redid with taking some modern technology to it, they could do wonders with some of Edgar Allan Poe's stories now and do them well, because the stories are so well written. And there's some actors out there that I think could do bang up jobs doing the voiceover works that Vincent Price did for those films. Yeah, that would be an interesting, especially The Raven. The Raven would be, and Telltale Heart, things like that. The Murder in Rue Morgue would be one of those ones that could be wild beyond the imagination in this day and age with the right cast.
You see, you have to have the right delivery, and you have to have I almost feel like you have to have the British accent and all that stuff to do that stuff, the Royal Shakespearean stuff. There's only one person that I would want to see do this stuff, and that's Patrick Stewart. That would be awesome.
See, I think that if they Daniel Craig, if you wanted to do somebody with an English accent, Daniel Craig, Hugh Jackman could do. I'm not saying he's not Australian. I'm saying you want to talk about doing it with the candor that he can do it.
Yeah,
guy
I could see that. I could see that.
The guy's done Broadway, he's done everything you could imagine. Believe me, he could pull off Edgar Allan Poe. I'm trying to think who else. Ed, early on from the previews that have come out the last couple of days of Batman, Robert Pattinson might be able to do some interesting takes on that. I mean, I know we all roll our eyes when we think about Twilight, but go check out the Batman trailer that came out the last couple of days for the new one, and you may get a different interpretation of Robert
God
Pattinson.
help me, there's another Batman coming? Seriously?
Robert Pattinson, and you need to really take a look at Colin Farrell as the Penguin. You're not going to believe this.
Oh, I'm sure he'll do a great job. I just can't believe there's another movie coming. God. How many times can we reboot the same freaking series?
Considering they really kind of haven't brought the other one to an end yet, I don't know what they're going to do. Because there's still kind of an open question mark at the end of Justice League of what's next. It's not an end. It's a kind of, we don't know what we're going to do ending in Justice League. But yeah, now well, we've got 2 consecutively running Jokers. So, but anyway, yeah, there's a couple of people I think who could do interesting interpretations of. There's probably some things in Shakespeare that could be redone pretty well too at this point. I know there's another interpretation, I think, of Macbeth coming out over the next couple of months. But I'm trying to think what else is there. Yeah, we're unfortunately Hollywood has gotten into this redundancy of reboots, this cycle of reboots over the last few years, which now there's a reboot of Dune coming out next week, I believe. But actually looks pretty good. So I guess we'll see.
Speaking of looking pretty good, someone dresses up very well. Someone cleans up very well. Mr. Doug is looking very sharp now.
That's why he was on mute.
He's still on mute, but he's looking. There we go.
Yeah. Get ready. Church time.
Hi, Todd.
Oh,
we
thanks.
got Doug's alter ego for the beginning part of the podcast. Now we're getting true Doug.
Is that Paisley?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Nice.
Yes. Over the 20 years of working in the corporate world, I've amassed drawers full of ties. So the only saving grace to all these ties is the Sunday tie, the council tie, and luckily my son, now going to Catholic school, gets to wear a tie every day. So, and he's allowed to wear any tie that he would like. So he could actually use the ones that I've amassed. But yeah. So as you know, it's nearly pumpkin time for me. So yeah.
Actually, we're talking about movies. The executive producer here just informed me that the rumored and mentioned Hocus Pocus 2 is coming out next year. That's another one to look forward to. If you remember which which I had heard the three sisters were coming back. Although Bette Midler is a little bit more vintage, let's put it that way, than she was when the first movie came out. She still gets around pretty well. And Sarah Michelle Gellar always looked better in the makeup. Sarah Jessica Parker always looked better in the makeup anyway than she did in real life.
Now that's just mean because she's an attractive woman. That's mean.
Ooh, there was like a window of like 10 years that Sarah wasn't so bad. After that and going into Sex and the City, she got a little horse face. Not as bad as Julia Roberts, but she got a little horse face.
Did you just get the finger from your wife again?
No, she just said no. She almost just joked on her breakfast. But no, yeah, that should be an interesting one. And it's not a reboot, it's an actual sequel, which is a good thing. There's also a Sister Act sequel coming out later next year too, which also is not a reboot. Whoopi is replaying the part for the third time. But there's a ton of stuff coming out and there's a ton of room to do more. But like I said, Hollywood is stuck in this reboot, redo cycle, which hopefully they'll break soon and we'll get some new and original movies coming out. And then there's one thing that usually ends up being ignored because there's a lot of it, but a lot of it is tied into movies, is the music of Halloween. I mean, we all know the Monster Mash and things like that. And actually, I have yet to play it for Sadie. I actually should play it for later. I'll probably play it for later today. But we were talking about it. And there's a lot of songs since the beginning of time, since like the beginning of rock and roll, that have had horror connotations to it. I Put a Spell on You from the original version from Screaming Jay Hawkins, who actually, I heard something that the only way that he could do what he did with the screams in that, he recorded that song very inebriated. He was like at it. The only reason that he could do the screams in that, he was a very shy and reserved guy usually, but knowing that he wanted to do it, went out and hung out with one of his friends and came back and said, okay, I'm ready, after a night of getting drunk. And that's how they recorded the song. They recorded the song. He didn't even know the next day that he recorded it. He did not know how he did it. They played it for him and he's like, okay, that works. And they put it out. And of course, I mean, I could rattle off a million songs. There's Halloween channels on certain things on like XM and Pandora and things like that play all that kind of music. Of course, one of the more famous ones you mentioned, Vincent Price, in Vincent's later career in the early 80s, he got a phone call from Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones asked him to do him a favor, if he could, to help Michael Jackson record a song. And if you don't know, I'm talking about Thriller. Vincent had a resurgence into his 60s and 70s because of the release of Thriller. It put Vincent back on the map for a little while there. And of course, I mean, like I said, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of songs that are tied into Halloween, especially some of the theme songs. There was John Carpenter like I mentioned him before, he had instrumentals written for every, and wrote some of them himself for some of his movies that are still living on today. The theme for Halloween, the theme for Prince of Darkness, and Escape from New York, which wasn't a horror movie, but Escape from New York, Escape from LA.
No, it was just a horrible movie.
What, Escape from New York?
Oh God! And when I watched it originally, I thought I had a lot of fun, but in the years since, I'm like, God, that was an awful movie.
I'm offended on principle.
You should be.
Oh my God. How could you say, never mind, we're not gonna get into that. Um,
By the
and,
way,
and
by the way,
another,
you mentioned Vincent Price and Thriller. Michael Jackson did help resuscitate Vincent Price's career. But I remember distinctly because I think I was in college at the time, how many people heard that, absolutely loved it, and had no idea who Vincent Price was.
Yep.
They just knew he was the perfect voice for it, and they thought he was new to Hollywood.
Yep.
It was horrible to watch how few people understood that. But you're right, that resuscitated his career the way Meatloaf resuscitated Phil Rizzuto and put him on the map.
well, no, you can't say that. Not in this area. Absolutely not.
In
Rizzuto
the New York area,
Well,
everybody knew who
announcing
Phil
career.
Rizzuto was. No one knew who he was outside of the New York area until he did the song with Meatloaf.
Okay, I was gonna say around here.
Of course, New York people knew who he was. And I love Scooter. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely love him. One of the worst broadcasters in history, but I absolutely love him.
He was pretty bad.
He was terrible, but that's why we loved him, because he was so bad.
Yeah, but
But he became a global phenomenon
yes.
when Meatloaf did the song. The way and Vincent Price regained his global popularity when he did Thriller.
Talk about bad announcers. Look at Marv Albert.
That's just rude.
No, Marv Albert was a character.
Okay, we're getting off topic, and Doug has to go to church. So,
Anybody have anything they want to add about Halloween before we head out of here? It pushes an hour now.
He's all gonna have a beautiful day.
the question is that Doug's Halloween costume or not?
Nothing to add, nothing else to add, Mr. Cranky Pants? Mr. Halloween hater?
Oh, Doug, he must be talking to you.
Yeah, whatever, Halloweeny.
I am a Halloweenie for sure.
As we move on into this unknown future of a world that we're going into, if you want to call it post global pandemic, call it post global pandemic. It's not really, but the definition of normal has changed, obviously, because we're never going to get back to what we were. We'd be lying to ourselves if we said we were. But we've gotten this far, and the only thing we really can do is keep progressing forward at this point. Progress is a good, if that's what you want to call it. But we will now start to have some normalcy to holidays and things like that. Hopefully, the coming winter holidays will have a real sense of normalcy as we head towards them, start barreling full speed towards them, as we're now heading into a little over a month away from Thanksgiving at this point. We will see what the rest of the winter will bring. We wait with bated breath. So from all of us here at Dad's on Life, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye, guys.